Hey, what's up, family? This is Mia, and welcome to my humble abode. Today, we are going to work on Project 4, which is a tree skirt. So, let's begin. So, before we get started, let's begin with the materials. The size that I'm making is going to be about 36 inches, so you would need roughly about a yard. That may be a little extra, but I like to say it's better to be safer than sorry. So the first thing I would do is make sure that my fabric is ironed, and then I fold it twice with the raw edges facing outward. Doing this will help us prepare the circle. Next, I would draw like a half circle from one end to the other, and instead of freestyling, I decided to make this easier. I just went ahead and tied some twine, one to my chalk piece and the other part to my pen, and I put the pen in the corner of the selvage, and I pretty much pulled it across with the chalk, which helped make pretty much a perfect half circle or quarter of a circle. After cutting out the circle, the next thing was to make a smaller circle in the middle so that the tree stem can fit. I just simply took a candle holder and drew around the edge of it and then cut it out, and voila, there goes your tree stem space. Next, I wanted to duplicate this process. So I took a heavier upholstery fabric that I had left over and just pretty much repeated the process so the skirt can lay better on the floor. So next was pinning the fabrics together. I turned them right side facing, and I went ahead and pinned around, and I also cut a slit down one side and pinned those together with a small space available, at least where my hand can fit in. You want to make sure the size is just big enough for your hand to go through so that when you are done sewing and you have to flip it inside out, it's not going to be a struggle. So next was sewing the two pieces of fabric together. Now this was a little bit, I would say, cumbersome at first because you kind of got to get a flow with moving all that fabric around. However, it wasn't difficult. It was just trying to figure out the flow. And once I did that, I was able to go down each slit and around the fabric so that once I was done, I could flip it inside out, which I'll show you shortly. Another quick tip that just crossed my mind, make sure you backstitch at the beginning and at the end. Now that everything is sewn together, except for that opening that I told you about, before I flipped it inside out, I wanted to make sure that any excess fabric or string or anything like that that was hanging out, I wanted to remove that as much as possible. Then I wanted to make some like micro cuts around the edge, and you can see I'm using my tiny scissors for that. That helps for when I finally flip it inside out, it's not a lot of bulk around that area because we're going to have to sew around that in order for it to lay properly. Now it is time for the flip. So as you can see, I reached my hand in and I pretty much am pulling it inside and out. Now you can see the beauty of having that opening as wide as my hand because it just made it a lot easier. After I pulled it inside out, I put my hand back in and I started pushing out all the corners. Now to make sure that the edges lay down properly, I was just going to do clips at first, but I decided to run an iron over it just to make sure that it's secured when it's laying down, and then I added the clips as additional support. This also helps for that opening part because you don't want it to keep sliding open while you're trying to sew it. So I like to iron first, put the clips down, and then commence the sewing. So once I added the clips, it was now time to do a final run through of sewing around the edge of the skirt so that it won't bulk out. Once everything is sewn, then you clean it up and voila, you can put it under your tree. And there you have it, a tree skirt. It took us about 45 minutes to an hour to make it, but as you could tell, it turned out lovely. If you guys enjoyed this video and would like to see others, go ahead and hit that like button, the subscribe button, and that notification bell. We truly appreciate it because it helps out our channel tremendously. Let me get my words right. With that being said, that's all for today, and you guys stay super-tastic.